let's get to some politics here. Let's go to Albany, where Assembly Speaker Shelley Silver is certainly doing pretty good for himself, and all this is legal. None of this stuff is some of the questions of graft and all the rest. This is just one example of what is, I think, systemic. Shelley Silver apparently getting a pay boost, and in fact making more money than he did even last year for his work at a Manhattan law firm, Whites and Luxembourg. You got the Post reporting that he earned somewhere between $650,000 and $750,000 last year from that powerhouse providing, legal powerhouse I should say, for providing of counsel services to the records. Now, just as a launching off point, again, that's the way this was set up. I think for folks at home that don't realize, the state legislature, when it was originally designed, was designed to be there for 1 day a week. Part-time job, where somebody obviously had to have an outside income to be able to support themselves and their families. But slowly but surely over the year, and it's not just relegated to Albany, this goes on in Trenton, this goes on in Hartford, this goes on everywhere. The state legislature has become a 3, a 4 day a week job, depending on the budgetary fights. You could be up there all week, and I'm saying something obviously that the folks around this table know all too well. However, there still are second jobs. I argue, and you don't have to make it, that my solution would be pay a real full-time job here, a full-time salary to the state legislature. I know that's politically impossible with the public here, but do that. And then do what we do in the House and the Senate, which is there are no second jobs. But until that happens, we have situations where elected officials will have outside jobs that, let's be honest, for 1 day a week, who's going to retain you as an attorney? You're going to be retained because of influence. And it's not just him. I can find Republicans. I can find other Democrats. I can, like I said, go across state borders. It's the same thing.
In New York,
in New York.
Republicans, too, were noted in the same report.
Fair enough. My point is, I'm not trying to make this a partisan thing, but he is the speaker, and it's the easiest number, and that's what's in the headlines now. But this is everybody. And I had the same argument in Trenton not long ago when I was down there talking to some of the same lawmakers. It just... Nobody wants to acknowledge it, but you can't have it both ways.
Look, New York was ranked the most corrupt state in the nation, though, by the University of Illinois, of all places. The problem is, who are these clients that he's getting paid from? This has been going on forever. He's notorious for blocking any sort of bills that the trial lawyers don't like because he's making almost $1 million from a law firm that handles these cases.
You do agree with me only one thing. This isn't just Shelley Silver. I brought him up.
No, I'm not saying it is, but it's the most high-profile example that he controls what bills come to the floor for passage, and every year bills that the trial lawyers don't like are blocked, and he makes all this money from them.
But let me ask you a question.
And they have not been able to disclose their clients.
He single-handedly does not block the bills. We sit in a conference. The majority members. Let me just tell you how it really works.
I worked up there for years.
I know how it works
as well.
Seriously, I knew how it worked when I was staff. I know how it works better when I'm a member. And I sit there in bills that have support of members or have support of the speaker that don't get there because the majority of members either support or don't support it. I would say on many of the issues that the trial lawyers care about, myself included, are strong supporters of many and not all of their positions. And I think it's really wrong to sort of say that this guy gets money, blocks bills. It doesn't work that way.
But just do this with me. Just bear with me for 1 second.
Let me just finish one other point. We changed the law to require disclosure. This didn't used to be required, as you remember.
Right.
Now, the law was changed.
Know.
You know, and you know who the firm is, and you can actually learn more about the clients if you dig down into the file.
But the perception to the public is, wait a second, whether it's him, I don't care who it is, in the Senate, in the Assembly, it doesn't make a difference, Trenton, Albany, Hartford. My point is different. If you're only able to work on the outside because of now the scheduling demands that put you in the state capitol, right? And then you got a campaign and everything else on top of all that. And you got to do constituency work when you're home in district. There's no time for the second job. But when somebody gets paid handsomely, not handsomely, it's not the point if you're an attorney, who is going to retain you for legal counsel when you're never around unless it's for influence? And this isn't about Shelley. I'm not making it about Silver. He was the headline today, but this is about the whole system. Until it's a full-time job with pay that's commensurate to it, you're going to always have the perception, even with disclosure, which is a major step forward, that, hey, people are paying to get access, right?
You're going to always have a perception problem as long as you have a pay that unfortunately, for most people, sounds like a decent amount of pay, and therefore I think we have to be very sensitive in this environment that
Yep.
we can't talk about and move towards increasing it. But was based on a part-time job, and it is basically a full-time job. At least for me, it's a full-time job. I have no outside income. You will find, if you look at their report, the majority of lawmakers have no outside income and do treat it as a full-time job. There are some, the speakers not only, including Senator Skelos, who have outside jobs and get paid handsomely, but the majority of members work full-time for
Yep.
the current salary. It's not a perfect system, but I think rather than blaming someone who disclosed
Okay.
what he did.
But
I want to get to this one. Okay, this is also at Albany. I'm going to run out of time. And this one, to me, was, I think, the most significant of the day, which is you have the Court of Appeals, and they struck down an anti-cyberbullying law. Now, the court says the law is broad language. It violates the First Amendment. Officials in Albany say they're going to work to try and pass a revised version of this law after the court said no. Now, the case, it all centers around a 15-year-old boy who became the first person charged under the law back in 2010. He was accused of posting sexually explicit remarks about his classmates on Facebook. The teen argued that the law was unconstitutional and infringed on his right to free speech, and he was sentenced to 3 years probation. Now, without getting into all the details of this, Dominic, I thought this was it was horrible stuff. The court acknowledged it was horrible stuff. Put pictures up, said unbelievably awful things that were completely untrue. And I know there's civil recourse to this, but I thought the whole point of cyberbullying and everything else, from the Tyler Clementes at Rutgers to all the countless stories we've seen at high schools and even middle schools across this country, is you have to make there a legal deterrent so that kids won't do this anymore. This ruling to me says, I don't know where free speech and harassment starts and stops. I'm thoroughly confused now.
Well, no, I think what the ruling says, Richard, is that you have legislatures that pass laws, but then you have the Court of Appeals, and they may see things completely different than the way, from a legal standpoint. So the court is simply saying the way this case was presented to it, they don't find the grounds for the guy to be convicted or for the conviction to stay. So the legislature has to change the law so it will pass muster with the Court of Appeals.
Can the legislature fix this?
Well, first place, this was an Albany County law, not a
Yes.
state law. So the Albany County legislature, just like the Westchester County
I'm
legislature.
sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No,
Yep.
but the point is, they made it a criminal statute. We've adopted a civil cyberbullying and a cyberbullying with education. There's a lot of things you can do. And when you get into the criminal realm, you have to be particularly thoughtful and
But there's a way to
mindful.
craft it
I
where
think-
there'll be a clear line
Yeah,
between
I
harassment
think
and
that
always
will.
the
They're
way
going
to
to come
craft
back.
it.
They're going to go back and do it again.
That's the purpose of the courts, and it's up to the lawmakers to write a good law.
All right.
And I think they will.
But Teflon Shelley, I wanted to say that, the speaker. This guy, no offense.
I'm trying to get to break time. You're telling me you know
when you
TV,
make the
my man.
laws, it's very unique.
And that last point. All right, we're going to be right back, more after this.